roll camera, and then it starts screaming, and he says, someone yells, speed, which means the camera's up to speed, and then he says, action! And there was like this little pop. It sounded like a firecracker, just a snap, and the front of the model was gone. And it was like, cut! My name is Fon Davis, founder of Fanco Studios. I've been working in the industry for over 35 years on over 40 feature films. A lot of that was my 10 years at ILM on some of the bigger franchises. So we got to work on the Terminator series, Jurassic Park series, Star Wars series, Galaxy Quest, Starship Troopers, tons of amazing things. It all started with Star Wars when I was 7 years old. Not far from here, because we're in LA now. I used to live in Lancaster because my dad worked at Edwards Air Force Base. He was in the Air Force. And we went to see Star Wars at the drive-in because my parents would only go if it was dollar night at the drive-in. So we went to see Star Wars at the drive-in with that little metal can on the window, speaker. And even with that quality of viewing experience, it was mind-blowing. You know, of course, all the kids at school were really into it. And I was a bit of a bookworm. I like to go to the library and check out books. So my interest in model making didn't actually start, or my interest in my career didn't start until I picked up one of the books. It was The Making of Star Wars, or one of the Making of Star Wars books. And it had photographs of model makers making miniatures for the movie. And I was always making model kits and I like to build things. And so when I saw that, I was like, wait, that's a job? Because that's the job for me. I want to do that for a living. So at 7 years old, after seeing Star Wars, I basically knew what I wanted to do for my job, for my career. So, you know, I thought I would have to go to film school. So I I went to high school in Oregon, moved to San Francisco on my way to Los Angeles because I thought I needed to move here to work in the film industry. When I was in San Francisco, I found out that they had a film industry there. So I was just gonna work for a little while and then go to film school later. I never got to film school because I just ended up working from there till now. Then I ended up on Nightmare Before Christmas because of those connections. And on Nightmare Before Christmas and James the Giant Peach at Disney, I met people that worked at Industrial Light and Magic. And then from there, it was very easy to get my job at ILM. So for me, working on the special editions and then the prequels was kind of full circle. It was really kind of mind-blowing to think of something that I grew up with. And the reason I got into the industry was exactly what I ended up working on. So not just the series, but the actual movies themselves, which was like time travel. So it's pretty cool. And somehow now I've been tricked again into running a production studio.
Seems like a busy place though.
It is, yeah. We do a lot of work for all the big exciting companies, none of which I can talk about. But no, we do a lot of great stuff. And fortunately for us, Fonco's reputation is doing the unusual. So we do a lot of strange things for, you know, sci-fi, fantasy, especially incredible costumes, creatures, robots, lots of miniatures work. I always say if someone comes to Fonco Studios for a couch, it's not going to be an ordinary couch. It's either going to eat somebody or be shaped like a dragon. You know, since we opened Fonco and word is kind of getting around, we've done work for Disney Plus, Disney Studios, Marvel Studios, 20th Century, Universal, you know, all the big players, Netflix, Amazon, and we started producing some of our own all in-house productions.
I know that you worked on the Camino cloning facility. Can you tell us a little bit about the cool practical effects that maybe people don't realize?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of miniatures in the prequels that most people don't know about. When the movie came out, there was a huge focus on all the innovation that was going into the digital photography. Like Attack of the Clones was the first all digitally shot motion picture. Most people don't know about the miniatures, but there were a ton of miniatures, Camino in particular. I was in charge of the hallways and what we called the pod that connected the hallways. It was like a large tower with a control room in it and a window. One of the fun things is we would have to have reference for those characters in our miniatures just for the CG artists to kind of see what the lighting and stuff would look like. So I would have the task of creating a very quick and dirty resemblance of these characters. Obi-Wan was great because I was able to just go buy an action figure of Obi-Wan, but it was out of proportion, so I had to cut him in half and then add, like I just used hot glue to make him taller. Yeah. And then making the hallways were actually really challenging too because there were so many windows. And the windows were really interesting shapes. We had to vacuum form all of those. And, you know, for every one window that looked really good, we probably had 4 rejects because one speck of dust landed on that window and made it no longer usable.
Can you separate yourself from that when you watch Attack of the Clones? Can you just enjoy the effect of it, or are you thinking about, oh, how many hours did I spend wiping those floors?
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to separate yourself from the fact that those are miniatures once they composite in the characters and it's all in the context of the film and it's cut together. Oh, the Republic cruiser at the beginning of Star Wars Phantom Menace was just one spaceship that at the beginning of the movie it only explodes one time. Typically for that we would build an oversized model to blow up because fire and smoke don't scale as well as other things. And that was actually the first pyro shoot I ever got to work on, was for Star Wars Phantom Menace, and that was in the Federation hangar. That was absolutely amazing because I had no idea what this was going to be like, and I was working with Jeff Herron. He was the pyro guy there, and he had explained to me how the entire shoot was going to go. We needed a lot of light. When you shoot high speed, you need lots of light. We were still shooting film on Star Wars Phantom Menace just to paint the picture of the scene. It was pretty remarkable. So I'm there, I'm ready to turn on the lights. The pyro guys are ready with the exploding front of the spacecraft. Jeff Herron had explained it was going to be a 3-stage explosion, told me what I had to do. He described we're going to try to get fire to come out the windows and then it's going to break apart and there's going to be 3 fireballs. I was like, wow, I can't wait for this, right? And I'm on set, so I'm going to be able to see this. Runs the camera. The camera is screaming because it's running film through it so fast. It's very, very loud. So Pat has to yell. And he says, roll camera. And then it starts screaming and he says, someone yells, speed, which means the camera's up to speed. And then he says, action. And there's like this little pop. It sounded like a firecracker. Just a snap and the front of the model was gone. And it was like, cut. And so I went over to Jeff Herron and I said, so how'd that turn out? And he goes, I don't know, we'll see tomorrow. It's very casual. I was like, oh, okay. And so they developed the film and then we have dailies the next morning about 8 a.m. And so we all go in there and we're filing in and we sit down in the screening room and they show a lot of different shots that people are working on. They get to ours and they play it and sure enough, fire comes out of the window, the ship breaks apart, 3 fireballs. You know, it was beautiful. But all of that we saw the next day happened in that one flash of a second on stage. And so that's why that is so significant to me because I had no idea what that was going to be like. And it's not at all what you imagine. When we shot the pod race, we shot that outside. So the miniature was outside and we didn't end up needing to use fans to blow on the characters or all the Q-tips.
Characters.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I should go grab it and show you. I have Mos Espa Arena action figures and it's just 3 Q-tips. When we got outside and we had all the Q-tips in the arena and we tried shooting with fans, they looked like they were like all spasming and convulsing. So it turned out that just the natural air outside was enough to move them around in a subtle enough way to look real. There was actually a lot of really great scenes that they had done for the Mustafar lava flows. So a lot of those were done in miniature with actual, moving liquid. But what they would use the material called methyl cellulose, and then they would light it from underneath with gelled red lights to make it look like lava. And then on the top, it was broken up pieces of cork painted black, basically mimic what a lava flow would look like.
I like that. It's basically just like a science fair.
Yeah. And I remember going out to the main stage at ILM and they had like the giant lava flow and they were in there for weeks shooting different lava flowing this way, lava flowing that way, camera moving across it in different ways and all that kind of stuff because they had to shoot enough to do Obi-Wan and Anakin's duel.
So with the volume filming that we know happens on these Star Wars TV shows, are studios still looking for the sort of miniatures that you worked on with ILM, or has that really shifted?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Virtual production and also just anytime someone experiments with the improving of visual effects or just filmmaking, it usually spawns extra work for us in practical. When cameras shoot higher resolution, it's a lot more difficult to do something in computer graphics that looks real. So we're always challenged to find ways to make things more real, even if they're just for the computer. In virtual production, for example, we'll make a miniature, we'll start with the design in the computer. So we'll make a computer model, and then we'll 3D print the computer model, we'll paint it, and then we'll photograph it. We'll use those texture maps to apply to the computer model so that it looks more real. And then that's brought into Maya or Unreal and adds that little bit of the imperfection of reality that is necessary to kind of fool audiences that these things are real. That's been the biggest thing, but we've seen a pretty big uptick in those types of productions. We've had a couple LED walls here at the studio too, and I think it's only going to grow. My prediction is in the future, there will be no green screens, just every green screen will be replaced with a video wall. And it's just a matter of time. And fortunately, that means that they still need practical elements in front of the LED wall, and that's what we focus on.
So if someone wanted to be a model maker, wanted to do what you do for the next 40 years, what would you recommend? Not going to film school, or?
No, it's funny. Actually, I think that if you can go to school, you should go to school. But I think it's also important to know that if you can't go to school, that's okay too. Everyone's got their own path. I had a really weird path to get into my career, especially to where I am now. I never set out to do everything that I did. It just, I just got on the train and it kept going. I think the best advice I could give anyone thinking about getting into the industry is just, approach life as a student, because software is constantly changing. The way we make models, the new chemicals that are coming out all the time as far as resins and rubbers and silicones, and all of these things are always changing. So if you ever settle into the idea of being a master at something and just being like, now I know everything, I can just do it, you won't succeed in this industry. You'll be left behind rather quickly.
Well, did you have a favorite set that you worked on? A favorite memory from the prequels?
Boy, it's always hard to pick a favorite of anything. Favorite movie, favorite scene, favorite model, because they're all so different. They're all so fun in different ways. If I had to choose, I would say working with R2-D2s, and I say that because there's more than one. There's only one in the movie, but at ILM there are numerous R2-D2s, and every time I've got a chance to work with an R2-D2, that's always been my favorite. Solely because I grew up with those movies and I really loved R2-D2 as a character growing up. I'll never forget the first time I got to work. I had to repaint an R2-D2, which means I had to strip down all the paint down to metal. So this is an aluminum one. It was from the original movie. A lot of the other ones were fiberglass. So I got to work on one of the original ones, and I'll never forget, the heads on those just sit on them in these little brackets. So I pulled the head off and I set it aside and I looked inside. And just for a brief moment, I was 7 years old again. Because inside that R2-D2 were these two little footholds and some straps for Kenny Baker. And I about lost my mind for a brief moment. You have to remain professional in the workplace, so I did. But inside, I was just, the child in me was very excited to see that.